Hey, everybody. John and Lance here from the bench. That's mornings on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5, talking some Texans football. But before we do that, hit that subscribe button so you can get all our information here at SportsMap HOU. Lance, Mike Florio put out the article about Cal McNair's statement in which he said, blah, blah, blah. We don't condone this type of, and all of that stuff. Florio said there is a good chance that Deshaun Watson does not play this year. Better than 50-50 that he doesn't play, or do you think better than 50-50 that he does play?
Better than 50-50 he does play. I think the question becomes more than 8.5 games or less than 8.5 games. You know, I think that's what it becomes. I think there's a better chance, whether it's with Houston or with another team. I think it's better than 50% chance. And here's why. I do think that eventually Deshaun and Rusty Harden will settle. And once they settle and get things paid off, it's a matter of what does the NFL penalty look like. I don't think we're going to see the NFL penalty a full year. So I'm just working off of, will the NFL keep him out for an entire year? And I'm trying to think of another player that they banned for an entire year, and there isn't one that exists. I mean, that I can recall for what Deshaun is being accused of. I mean, last year, you eventually had Antonio Brown make it on the field. You eventually had Ezekiel Elliott make it on the field, Ben Roethlisberger. I think that eventually Deshaun Watson will make it on the field if he gets settled, before the NFL has to make some of their decisions. I think that's the case. Important. I think that's the case, and I think it's better than 50-50 that Deshaun doesn't play the entire year. One, because I'm not sure all of this gets done before the season starts. Even though they could want to and start doing there's a lot of negotiations. There's 22 now and could be more. I think they're going to want to get all of those behind them. The NFL will exempt him until all of this is behind him. And then there's the penalty phase, not the exempt phase, but the penalty phase, which could go into could finish up this entire season. The NFL might just say, just sit the entire. I think it's a better odds. First of all, I don't think it's done by the time the season starts. And I don't think it's done well into the season either, because there might be some holdouts. And, oh, by the way, a criminal investigation as well. So I think he could hit the exempt list, and I think he could, even if he gets through the exempt list, he could hit the penalty phase of what he's going to have. So I'm with Florio. I think there's a good chance that he doesn't play the entire season. Now, with the Darnold trade, how many teams are left out there that Deshaun could be traded to? How many teams need long-term 5-year answers at quarterback? Well, I mean, you can go through a lot of teams actually need that more than you probably think. It's just you're not, I think you could say that about the Minnesota Vikings, for example. Yeah. I think you could say that about potentially the Detroit Lions with Jared Goff there. You might be able to say about the Colts. I mean, not that I think the Texans would ever deal him to the Colts, but you could definitely say that about the Denver Broncos.
Tampa.
What's that?
Tampa,
the Saints. I think the Atlanta Falcons. There are more teams than people probably think.
Washington, the Eagles.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If Deshaun's willing to open up, because here's what he's not going to. San Francisco is not going to be on his radar anymore. I think Carolina could be, just not in the short term. It would have to be after at least a year of seeing what happens with a Sam Darnold. So Deshaun may have to open up his list of names that will play. Getting back for 1 second, I think the one thing that helps Deshaun potentially get back on the field this year is that there's one lawyer with those 22 cases. And so if he starts settling, this could be a kind of a skeleton in terms of, this is the template for the settlement, and we'll be able to get – if this were multiple lawyers, forget about it. Disaster. The fact that it's one lawyer might help expedite this. The criminal case obviously is something entirely different. But in terms of finding a suitor, you can find a suitor, but you got to find a suitor who Deshaun wants to go to, who you want the package of what they're offering, and then you have to have the Deshaun stuff settled. So it's pretty tricky for him to play this year. I still think there's definitely a chance, but I also think, John, and I think you agree here, the odds of the Texans getting what they want for Deshaun Watson have reduced dramatically over the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, the other teams all have the leverage now with not knowing what's going to happen. Now, if the Texans do wait until after this season, if they try to make a deal now before the draft, they're going to get pennies on the dollar because there's so much uncertainty. I think the smartest tact for the Houston Texans, let's wait till this is all behind us. Let's wait. Deshaun, you don't want to play for us? That's fine. Then sit. But we're not going to bring him. We're not bringing you in here, or he's going to be on the exempt list, or whatever whatever the deal is going to be. I think that a Deshaun trade most likely doesn't even happen until next offseason.
And I wouldn't hate it. And I think the Texans, maybe in the back of their mind, wouldn't mind the fact that if he were to be put on an exempt list and then punished for the entire season, it really gives them an excuse to say, we're waiting until next year where you actually know who's got what picks and things of that nature. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for the Texans to wait until next year to trade Deshaun either. We'll see. But I do think he'll be able to play this year for the Texans. Will they do it? Will they want him to? Will he want to? Yeah, maybe that's a little trickier now that I think about it.